Welcome, Anna Mannino, to the real beauty industry. I'm so happy that you're here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, I am going to tell the audience a little story about you, and then we're going to jump right in. So, I'm sure, I think, I'm not sure actually if you've heard me tell this story, but we've told the story. Like Tim and I have told this story a lot, but I don't know if we've told you this story. We probably said it to you in some kind of way, but I don't know if we've ever said it the way that we tell other people. So when we first came, or when we were first talking about doing Fuse, and so Fuse Republic is a hair care distributor that's part of what our company is, and we decide, we've got these careers and all of this stuff, and we decide the next step in that career is to take on product distribution in the state of Louisiana, which was it was a big thought in the brain at that time. And I remember when Beth Bewley, the CEO, sent us an email with the client list. We see there were only we'll just say there were lots of names on that list, but they also had like sales totals next to them. So there were not a lot of active names on that list. Like most of the salons had purchased, like over the course of a whole year, like $122. So it's not actually active. They're like probably buying product, like one product for personal use or something. And then there were maybe 3 or 4 that had, like, a little higher number, like, and then there was this place called Wicked Hughes, and I think it was maybe the year we got the printout of the year that maybe you had opened with Euphora, and so it had, like, your opener or whatever, and we see this, and so you are the biggest salon collectively in sales for this market that we're going to go into. And so we're like, we can't wait to go see Wicked Hughes, right? And
Right,
so
right.
we're like, what's this going to be like? Because it's the biggest salon in Louisiana that's carrying Euphoria. And so we drive to Wicked Hughes and we pull up and we sit out in the parking lot of a Sola suite going, what is happening? Like what do you mean? Like this is the biggest salon in Louisiana is in a solo suite because we'd been to many of the other salons that were on the list and they're like big salons, whatever. They just weren't active with the brand. But we walk in and there you are. And I want to be really clear with the audience. We did pull up to Sola. That was real life. We did walk into a suites like complex, but we went back to a suite. It was Anna in a 2-chair suite that she had created a micro salon in, meaning she had the full brand of retail. We hadn't even seen salons like big salons that had a full shelf of retail. Most of them had like 1 or 2 products on the shelf, maybe 15 different brands and 3 products from each brand. And we walk in and she's got the full like 9 by 9 foot long retail shelves fully stocked with all of them. And there she is, just you. It was just you, right?
Yep.
So I want to start
Yeah.
here. So I want you to give just a tiny bit of background, how long you've been in the industry. And you are right now what I would call the segment of the industry that's sort of a micro salon owner, meaning you do have one employee who works with you and you are running this micro salon with, the last time that we talked about this, ambitions of possibly growing that at some point. And just not doing it like everybody else. And we're going to get in deep to a lot of ways that you're not doing it like everybody else, but not doing it like everybody else. So tell me about that journey and that step and why in the world, how in the world you, as someone in this culture that, a lot of people go into a suite to like dismantle everything about an actual salon. Like, I'm never carrying retail again. And you're like, I'm getting all the retail. So I want to know about your mentality. Just share a little bit about your background and what led you to having this micro salon in this suite just as you, and you just open it like a salon with no one else but you there.
Yeah. So I graduated and joined the industry in 2014. Graduated an Aveda student, went straight into a Euphoria salon, and instantly fell in love with what I believe to be the thing that's doing it different and better than everybody else. And as I was learning more about the brand and taking classes, there's something about how my brain works with wanting to know the how and the why so that I can better use the situation, use the products, use the techniques, all of it, and how Euphoria's education truly caters to that in a way that I have not seen very many other educators in the industry do. Um, I remember taking a lot of classes in my first couple of years because any education is good education. I can learn from a brick if I need to. Um, and I remember being there and going, okay, but why this way? Because if it goes counter to what I know to be true scientifically about hair, I need to know why you're doing something different. And so many people just refused, like, didn't have answers for me. And my brain just completely dismisses the information they give me if they don't have a good how or a why. So for me, this brand has a lot of good answers as to how and a why, and they have good answers as to how and a why all the way through everything that they do, which truly, like, that matches how my brain works. And I love it for that. But I joined the industry as a whole because I truly struggled to understand my hair. I remember my cousins with curlier hair than mine trying to struggle how to learn their hair. And truly for me, it was finding that when I did go to a salon, they truly didn't have any answers for me either. And so when I joined the industry, it was a lot of like, okay, so y'all have this core foundational information, but for some reason, it doesn't truly actually translate into what you're telling people to do at home in a way that makes sense.
Mhm.
So when I joined the industry and I started learning myself, like there was a little bit of foundation to start with, but truly joining with Euphoria was truly the brand that launched that further because now I understand the how and the why to hair care so that I can educate my clients as to the how and the why to hair care and truly save them from a lot of their own DIY shenanigans.
Mhm. No, absolutely. I love everything that you said because you approach so this actually it's interesting to me because you've taken what you're really great at and the different perspective that you've come from. So you've just talked about you started wanting to understand your own hair. That's brought you to the industry. And then you get connected with this brand who helps you understand home care. And then all of those things sort of go together and understanding your hair more, understanding how to help clients with their hair, having something that works whenever you use it and it also helps you understand what it's made of or what it does so that you can then help other people who are struggling to know what to do with their hair. And you have taken this into so many different facets. And when so much of the industry like runs away from hair care, like as fast as possible, you start TikTok when was it in 2020, like when everything gets locked down and everybody's like the world is ending and you're like my world's beginning and you're like let's just get on and start making videos and then you explode on TikTok talking about hair care, being a hairstylist who's talking about hair care. You explode this massive audience that clearly says clients want to hear from a hairstylist about what to do with their hair. And you prove every single thing that continues to be said in the industry about hairstylists and retail wrong. Tell me about
I
how that started and where your brain, like what happened in your brain with that.
So I was one of the people who originally downloaded TikTok as a joke. And I posted, I think, a couple of like costume videos. really just goofing around on there. At some point, I posted a funny haha video, kind of complaining in a joking way about the clients who don't want to rebook but wait until the last minute. Um, and then suddenly went in that Saturday. And there's no reality in which that happens anymore for me. So, posted a haha funny, like, no, you're not getting in this Saturday. I told you 5 weeks ago you would need this Saturday. You should have listened. Um, and that took off. So that started that entire rebrand on TikTok into maybe this isn't a funny haha thing. Maybe this is a legit marketing service now. Um, and I was otherwise kind of struggling on Instagram because everybody on Instagram's just posting their, same back of the head photos.
Mhm.
And there's not a whole lot of ways to stand out. But TikTok was truly catered to more or less having that conversation and being able to talk in a far more candid way about things. So that exploded, and that led me to talk more about hair care, and really more or less like, maintaining colors. Here's how I would do that. Here's all of the like, here's like a 5-part series, really. Uh, and that led me to curls, and that led me, so it really just like started the trajectory down. And so by the time that lockdown happened and we had to close our salon, I sat there with like, well, my bills still need paying, and people on the internet want to know what I say about hair care. So I started offering a consultation service where I'd get to know them and their hair and then prescribe them a regimen, send them an email. Here's the 10 things that you need, and good luck to you. like, and that truly kept me going and kept my bills paid during lockdown.
Because
And
you were using Euphora, the company that you work with. You were using
mhm,
their link because they had launched an affiliate program just like everyone else did during lockdown. If a company
yeah,
didn't have one yet, they had one by the time that this was
mhm,
done. And so you were utilizing their affiliate program while the salon was closed.
yeah. So I was truly charging just my regular consultation fee. Um, and then just giving them the list.
Consultation fee.
I think it was only $30 for a half-hour slot. So it
So
really
very
wasn't much.
reasonable. Very, very reasonable.
Yeah, very minimal. I was truly trying to be accessible was truly my goal there. Um, because at that point, Sola did us a great job, by the way, of not charging us rent for the entire 3 months that we couldn't be here.
Mm.
So knocking that overhead out of the way, I was like, well, it would seem irresponsible for me to still charge overhead if I'm not being paid overhead. So truly just like my minimum half-hour cost, and I truly was back to back book with consultations for 3 months.
And so you just said, I'll do a consultation, or did you have a link, or how did that work?
Yeah, so I'd get all the information, we'd have a nice chat, I'd walk them through it, and then I would send them an email follow-up. And in the email follow-up, I did the most because every product that I listed was linked directly to that page so that there was no confusion on their end and they could just click what they need and found what they need. Along with like simple set of instructions for them, and then truly just like I covered everything. This is everything we talked about in the last 30 minutes. Here you go. Um, and Euphoria's affiliate truly goes above and beyond, by the way, because they do a higher percentage than every other affiliate that I've ever seen. Because I remember Sola also had an option at the time where if you were using any of these 10 major brands, they would give you a certain percentage if you use their code, but it
Mhm.
is like pennies.
Mhm.
So letting a- and then on top of that, Euphora links that person's email to your account now. Like, I don't think that started that way. But the fact that they added that in, now these people that I sold product to 3 years ago are still buying more and still helping me out, and I don't didn't have to talk to them again.
Which is
So,
really rare because most affiliate links are either first purchase or 12 months.
yeah,
Or do everything they can to distract your buyer through their email address, and then they're no longer attached to your account. Like, they still have to use your affiliate link. So
yeah,
that's huge. I mean, you know that obviously I love Euphoria. Like, I Euphoria will be my life till forever. Um, but I think that the one thing that always find really interesting is I don't think it's surprising at all to anyone when they talk to me because I'm so like serious and intense and all of this stuff at times that I gravitate toward business. You are a hairstylist. Love this industry. You love being behind the chair. You show up there every day. You fall into the category that I feel like so many people in this industry underestimate, believing that, even in our own industry, believe that. Like, hairstylists don't want to do the business and they don't want to sell the retail and they don't want to pre-book the appointments. And you take your business so flipping seriously while at the same time still having that sort of free spirited edge. Like, you are an individual in every capacity. You are not trying to show up like anyone else would expect you to. You don't, like, you care immensely and you really understand. And this is what's interesting too. I always notice this about everything that you and Caitlin do. You recognize branding so well. And it to me, it's like I've tried to explain this to some people because what'll happen is if I'm working with a stylist and I'll say, "Look, I'm the worst person for anybody to take social media advice from because I don't do it." So then they're like, "Yeah, you can't teach me anything." I'm like, Just because I don't do it doesn't mean I don't know what should be done." From a marketing standpoint, when someone goes to your page, they should be able to easily identify themselves or identify who you are. One of the two things need to happen. Hopefully, both. They need to be able to see themselves there, or they need to be able to connect with you in a way that makes them want to be there with you. One of the two things. So, you are so consistent. So, tell me how. And I feel like knowing you a little bit, I'm going to know a little bit of the answer, but you put so much of yourself in the brand. Tell me about how you came about to just be so free, but so consistently free. Does that make sense? Like, be so open, be so free, and so consistently free, and so opposite everyone else in this industry.
I mean, a lot of that is just a lot of that, I'll be honest, is working through a lot of childhood trauma. 'Cause, as a kid, I had felt like I tried to fit into somebody else's mold and, shrank myself and, tried to be what they wanted me to be. And that always was painful for me, so that when I kind of started branching out on my own, started, I went to college and started seeing and talking to a more diverse group of people. Not that my high school wasn't that not diverse, truly understanding just different aspects of life that way. And, lots of therapy, lots of shadow work, and truly recognizing that authenticity is its own magnet to bring people to you that also wish that they were more authentically themselves.
Gosh, authenticity as a magnet. And it, at this time, I just absolutely love that because there's something that Tim started to say in 2020 because it talks about it a lot now. And I do feel like it's not that we're doing better now, but there's so many different options of sameness now that It doesn't all look like it's exactly the same, but so much of it is. Uh, but he would just say the sea of sameness. He's like, Instagram is the sea of sameness. It is the place where you go to look like everyone else. And you've done such a good job of not doing that. And I love that you said authenticity is a magnet because that's such a good reminder to anyone in this industry who's like trying to figure out their marketing and figure out their social media and all of this stuff. Sometimes it's not about figuring it out. And like the harder you try to figure it out, the more away from yourself you become because you're so trying to become this thing that is attractive instead of allowing who you are to be what is attractive, which also feels better because the people who are attracted to you, the human, are more than likely going to be more your people. Do you find that the people that who are attracted to come to Wicked Hues and you are more your people because you and your salon are so authentic on social?
Absolutely. It's both because there's a true consistency between what they're seeing us post and what they get in the chair. It's just education, 24/7. I don't stop talking. And by posting that and catering our website to kind of explain that even better, like we added a blog. Like it's just all like I have a lot of things to say and truly just showcasing that in the way that by the time they sit in my chair, they are ready for all of the things that I have to say. They have their questions prepped. They're kind of ready to tackle some of the misinformation that they clearly have gotten over the years. They're ready to ask the weird questions, and they can tell by how I'm showing up in the world that I'm not going to judge them and I'm not going to talk down to them and I'm not going to shame them for the things that they had to do to get here. It's just cool. That is a choice that you made. I understand how you got here. Here's the real science behind what's happening, and here's how we're going to move forward from here. And they're ready for it, and they eat it up.
Absolutely love it. So tell me, because you are so business focused and business savvy, and we've talked about things that you've done. I mean, you've blasted on TikTok, you've exploded there, you are doing what I absolutely love that you've done because there's a big fight against this too. It's like retail versus affiliate link. I'm like, no, both, but understand
Both.
what they are, like what they're for. I'm like, retail is for your clients that are in the salon, and your affiliate link is so you can have another separate revenue source that is in addition to what you're doing. That's what the point of it all is for, right? And if you approach it and look at it that way, it's not either or, it's both. Like you have the same knowledge and you just are going to talk about the same thing. Um, but you have two different ways to do it. So you have been so business savvy and business focused. So I want to know over the last several years as your business has continued to develop, because I've seen things, whether it's things that you posted, things that you've talked about, I've seen things you've added into your business. So I want to know for you, like the top three things, but I want it to be the top three things not only that have had the highest value to you and your clients, but also, well, let's ask that question first, and then I want you to say the top 3 that you feel would be the most valuable, and if they're intertwining, it's fine, to even bigger salons that should be doing this thing because it would support their team.
For me, I think it's that when I do my marketing online and I'm talking about the hair care, talking about it from the place of I believe that everybody deserves good hair. And in order to do that, they don't have to come sit in my chair. It's more, this is the information that I'm giving you to move forward with. And here's my why and here's my how, and you can take it with you. And so for that, because it shows up in our email marketing, it shows up in our blog, it shows up on our TikTok, it shows up on our Instagram. We're about to do an overhaul on our YouTube tutorial videos, because all of that, I believe, is because of the intention that I'm putting into it and the why behind it. People are drawn to the fact that I am educating them in a way that allows them to have the information they need to make better decisions. So I don't,
So,
yeah.
well, you know what you just said that makes me think that would be super supportive. I feel like whether it's a hairstylist doing it for themselves, who's working independently, whether they're working in a micro salon, whether you have a bigger salon, one of the things, and this is something that I talk about a lot in retail programs that I do. The miss in retail a lot of times between the salon and the client or the stylist and the client is this lack of understanding that like I buy my retail from you, right?
Mhm.
Which seems like, oh, well, I have bottles of shampoo. Like, why wouldn't you know to buy your retail here? But they don't. Clients don't associate salons with the place that they buy their retail unless they've done it before. And sometimes if you've done it before and it was the wrong product, now they really disassociate from buying their products at the salon because they're like, it's going to be too expensive and it's not going to be the right thing, right? They're just trying to sell me something. So you have a lot of barriers to break down there, but what you just said is it's running through your social media, it's on your email, it's on your blog. It's you have all of these supportive pieces that not only help other people know like about your business. It doesn't just educate clients, but it's a consistent message that we are the people that you come to for great at home care. Not just great at home care in the sense that you buy your retail here, we are the product bosses, but you also get like, what are you supposed to do with your hair? And in knowing what you're supposed to do, you use this stuff, right? So you're providing so much support on that end. So I know one of the things that you've been super passionate about is the the way in which the stylist is experiencing their life in this industry. Would that be fair to say? The way that
Yeah.
they're experiencing it, whether it's financially, it is from a time standpoint. I just had a conversation with someone about she was actually a hairstylist before. She's still a hairstylist a little bit, but she's got a podcast and all of this. And we were diving into her. She said the podcast was created because she felt really burnt out. And I think that that's a word that we hear a lot in this industry and just in society at this time. But I know that you're super passionate about that. What do you see happening right now for some hairstylists that you think could be different?
I think that a lot of people are like, by the time that we hear a stylist complain about something, it is usually financially based. And it's usually, because we, on some level, understand that our time is our money and our money pays our bills. So our time is paying our bills. So by the time that we get around to the seasonal hustle and bustle and clients have to cancel last minute for whatever valid reason, at some point, those cancellations line up in such a way that truly breaks the stylist down because maybe they haven't done a whole lot of math on the back end or understand their finances to a huge math nerd and a numbers nerd, so to the point where I have. Um, but I think between what they're typically charging and or how they tackle their boundaries around their business or how they even tackle how their clients know about cancellation fees, by the time it gets to the holiday season we hear it from everybody. They're fed up with how they're treated and they are clearly not charging enough the rest of the year to cover the fact that people are going to get sick and have to stay home. um, and for me, part of what solves that problem is the retail, because that retail helps pay my bills as well. And by staying on top of it, I don't have to charge as much for the service itself. It all functions as an ecosystem. Um, but so too, I don't think that stylists are charging enough because they're still also relying on tips to save them and um, trying to stay affordable and accessible to too many people. And I think that part of that is also hurting how the industry sees us as career professionals. Like, you don't argue with your doctor over the fact that it's going to cost $100 and they're only going to see you for 15 minutes. So for me, part of it is that all of my marketing is showing that I understand hair in the way that a doctor might understand why you have a cold and how to fix it. Um, that justifies the price. So it's also part of that ecosystem of I am investing in the education. The prices get raised a little bit to accommodate with inflation at the very least. And I don't think enough stylists are doing that, whether it's top down salon owners or the stylists themselves just aren't understanding their value enough to charge what they need to.
I think that's very well spoken. It made me think that, I think even sometimes when stylists, if they do get to the point where they understand at least how these numbers are calculated or that they need to be aware of them, I think sometimes plan we plan the bare minimum, if that makes sense. And then we're like excited if it's higher and devastated if it's lower. But when we're planning for the bare minimum, when we're setting things up for the bare minimum, inevitably there are going to be things that happen. I mean, you could get sick. Like you could have no client ever, ever, ever cancel. And then you could get sick, right? And there's nothing you can do about that. So it's almost like when you're calculating those numbers, you have to have a ceiling of sorts that also adds in the additional that you would like to earn, right? And then maybe
Mhm.
even a little cushion beyond that so that if it does fall below where you were planning, the cushion is what's falling. It's not the minimum that you needed to make. I mean, when I hear people say, I want to make $90,000 this year, and then we break down the numbers, okay, great. And let's say the numbers break down to it being $800 a day or whatever. Again, no math people come after me because you don't even know how many days the stylist is working, right? But so
Right.
let's say that it's $800 a day, right? To get to 90 grand or whatever. Well, I wouldn't be
Hmm.
planning for 90. I would be planning for $1,000 days, and I would be planning to get to whatever the $1,000 would be, if that's going to be what, like a little bit more than 10% more, maybe 12% more or something like that. I would be planning to get to 100 grand, right? Instead of trying to get to 90. Like I want to create some type of cushion, and then my pricing structure needs to be backed out of that, like, wherever I'm going. There are a lot of people who are afraid of raising prices. And I honestly, in a lot of cases, like the way that we talk about pricing drives me crazy. What are your, how often do you look at your pricing? And because everybody wants to know about pricing, how often do you look at or reevaluate your pricing? Obviously, if bills go up or whatever, but do you ever do it on a, is it cyclical for you? Do you do it at any specific time? Do you do it when these things happen? How often do you analyze your pricing to make sure that you're in the right place?
So every quarter, I sit down and look at all the numbers again, and I make sure that the system is currently working as it is, and otherwise adjust. And aside from that, once every year, I do a 20% increase. Um, that helps keep up with inflation. That helps keep up with the education that I'm taking in the meantime, and adds just that little bit of extra cushion to the next year. Um, and for the first couple of years that I did it, I did not pay myself anymore. It was just adding to the cushion, because I truly wanted to prioritize paying off the credit card that I bought all those products on. And um, So there's definitely times where you'd prioritize something over the other in the business, but for the most part, I am looking to at least have a little bit of a cushion so that when 2 weeks out of the year somehow shit hits the fan, I'm not left wondering how I get paid for those 2 weeks.
Yeah, 100%. How your brain works in business, but I think you're also a huge testament, as I referenced earlier, to being a creative mind as well, who also enjoys the analytics and business side. I think you can be both. I think you can learn to be both. I think you can um, I've seen one of the most creative hairstylists that I've ever seen in my life who was freaking brilliant, who was so resistant to numbers and so resistant to learning the business aspect of things, but then went through the hard process of rewiring her thought process around it and ended up becoming such a brilliant business mind along with being wildly creative. It's so possible and simple, not always easy, but simple, I think, in this industry. Um, what do you notice right now in the industry that you think we could really improve as a whole? Whether it's service to our guests, service to each other, community. Um, what do you think we could really improve right now?
Um, I definitely see service to our guests as being part of it because I know that a lot of hairstylists don't do the same home care education that I do, but I also know that a lot of salons are so back to back to back to back to back on haircuts that there isn't the additional time to truly sit down and get to know the client that's sitting in your chair so that you can truly help them from where they're at. Um, it's something that I struggled with at previous salons, and it's something that I've seen other stylists struggle with. If you only have an hour and you have that 10-minute slot booked out for actually talking to your person, and then, the wash and the style and the cut, then you're truly not actually getting to know what you need to know about that person to better help them. And that makes a lot of clients feel like they're just a number, which is part of the disconnect. And then so too, you don't get to have all the knowledge you need about who that person is to better actually prescribe them their home care. And that's part of the disconnect as well. So one of the things that I do here is I build in it is part of that whole built in the cushion, right? So you built in the cushion financially. I also build in the cushion for time so that there is an extra chunk of time for what if I do have to add on a deep conditioner? I believe it will truly benefit them today. They're in for it. I don't want to have to knock everybody else off for the next 20 minutes to make sure that it happens. Um, and that way, I'm truly able to give them the benefit that they need that day so that they're able to actually see the results they need to see in order to invest. It's part of the ecosystem for me.
I love that. And it reminds me of something else that has come up recently, and I've said this to a lot of salons. Because again, back to the sea of sameness is not just the Instagram pictures. It is the coaching, the consulting, the business practices, the way we do things, all of the stuff. And um, at the end of the day, like you can literally do whatever you want in this industry. You can live business however you want. You can do it in whatever way that you want to, but the at the heart of all of it, you have to understand the business in order to then build the business profitably around a way that you want it to look like. If you want every single client to get their feet washed and receive a custom cocktail, like you can build that business, right? If you want to spend 3 hours with every client cutting their hair, you can build that business. Like there's so many different things, but you have to look at all the aspects of what it is that you're wanting to do and just ensure that you're not doing something that you haven't really taken and ensured that you understand what it's going to take from the business in order to do that, that you understand the types of clients that you want to work with, right? And that
Hmm.
you blend those things together because it all has to come through, but at the end of it, we have to just take the time to think about those things to ensure that we're there. But I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of freedom for our industry if everyone would just realize that you can literally do whatever you want, right? As long as you're thinking, like, if you think about what you want and then you build that business backwards, there are like billions of people on this planet and millions of people probably in your city. And someone that's listening to this is going to be like, I have 2,000 people in my town. Okay, great. I have a very good friend who had a business in a town of 7,000 people, and she was a $1.4 million business on a $65 haircut. Don't tell me what you can or can't do in this industry.
Right.
You can literally do anything. So it's, if you only had 2,000 people in your town and you're a hairstylist, I mean, what do you need? 60, 80, 100, depending upon what type of business that you're doing. You don't need that many of those 2,000 people in order to create whatever business it is that you want to create. And I'm going to ask you one more question. If you had a message for salon owners, because there's a lot of leaders and owners in this industry who listen to this podcast, and you were thinking of how they could better serve their stylist considering the current nature of the industry and all of it. What is one thing that you'd suggest that you think could be really, really valuable to help support their team? And I'm going to say specifically in order to feel comfortable and confident having the retail conversations that they need to have.
Hmm. I think part of it comes down to understanding the why behind what you're doing so that you can connect with the stylists under you and also they can connect with the clients under them. Because if your only purpose for selling is selling, the clients see it. If your purpose for selling is to truly solve their problems, the clients see that. And so it's not just about having the conversation in a way that says, well, we have to sell a certain amount. It's having the conversation that says, what do you need to know about this in order to know what problems it solves in order to recommend it to solve the problem?
Do you think that you would, let me think how I even want to phrase this question. And I want to be really clear to the listener because not all listeners out there are Euphoria salons, and this is not a commercial for Euphoria. This is actually just you happen to be a Euphoria salon.
Hmm.
How much do you think that choosing a brand matters in like whatever specific brand it is, how much that matters in the connection to you being able to really truly feel like you're authentically having those conversations with your clients versus selling a product?
Um, I have seen some stylists do really well with not choosing a specific brand, but rather focusing on this product is the best version of this product that I know of. And so they'll have a bunch of different things. Sometimes that works really well because then the clients don't trust you to be paid off by somebody. But I also see how that typically hurts bigger groups because unless you're one person running your own business and doing that, this the disconnect between the client and the stylist becomes, well, you don't believe in this either. That's why you have too many options. And then because the client walks in and sees a bunch of different options on your shelf, they instantly recognize that with the bunch of different options at Walgreens and the grocery store. And
Mm,
a lot of the name brands look the same. And if a lot of the conglomerates own both, there truly is no difference to the consumer. So
that is
for me, it's also knowing the story behind Euphoria and why they do what they do and how they got to where they got. Because of that how and the why that they have for everybody, that's the brand that works well for me because I truly can believe in it 100%. And so when I tell it to my clients, they see that I believe in it 100%.
that's really, really, really interesting and I think impactful for people to think, I don't care, let's whatever brand it is, that if you have when you have multiple brands, they're looking at you saying that you may not actually believe in anything. Like, how do I believe that this is the best thing when you have so much going on over there on the shelf? Like, what do you believe in? That's really interesting and I think very powerful and insightful for people to sit on and a good way to close this out. Anna, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you always. We've known each other for a long time now, and I am always excited to talk to you and hear your ideas and see your success. And I know we're going to see a lot more of your success and you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.